Some disturbing statistics. Despite constituting less than 5% of the global population, the United States holds nearly 25% of the world's prison population, according to the American Civil Liberties Union. But with over 2 million men and women in American jails and prisons, how exactly is this country preparing them for life beyond the cell block? In a new 4-part documentary series titled College Behind Bars, award-winning filmmaker Lynn Novick shines a light on the incarcerated men and women struggling to earn a college degree through the Bard Prison Initiative, one of the most rigorous and effective prison education programs in America. Here's a look.
Prison is here to punish us. It's not about rehabilitating. It just isn't.
This is a full-time, total commitment. When that door closes, you're at Bard College.
It's hard, it's difficult, but it's rewarding.
I gotta prove that I'm worthy of this.
They're trying to pay back to society.
It changes your whole outlook.
I realized I learned something. That is where transformation happens. That is what stops people from coming back to prison.
And joining us now is the producer and director of College Behind Bars, Lynn Novick, and Jewel Hall, an alumni of the Bard Prison Initiative. Welcome, both of you. It's an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me start with you. This 4-hour documentary series, it took 4 years of shooting,
right,
but it's actually, as I understand it, is a 7-year project if you take it back to its origins, right? So what was the origins of the project? How did it come to be?
So for many, many years, I've had the privilege of working with Ken Burns and our producer, Sarah Botstein. And when we were working on our film about the Vietnam War, Sarah and I were asked to give a lecture inside a prison in a college class about the Prohibition series that we had made. And we went to the Eastern Correctional Facility and brought our film reel and had a conversation with students there. And during that class experience inside the prison, we were just totally blown away by the level of rigor, the seriousness, the focus, the maturity, and the kind of engagement with the material that the students had. As we left the classroom that night, we said to each other, wow, this is amazing. The world needs to know that this is happening. Someone should make a movie about it. And then we kind of thought, we're kind of busy right now with this Vietnam series. I'm not sure we really have time. But as it happened, I got a chance to teach in the program myself. And over the course of the next year or so, Sarah and I decided we just had to make this film.
So, Jewel, what was your first impression when you learned about this project and that they wanted you to participate in it?
Well, I don't like to hear my voice on the recording, and I don't like to see myself on film, but I felt that this project was important because I've witnessed guys on the inside who were in the recreation areas doing nothing, into everything negative. But when they got into the Bard Prison Initiative, they became the most intellectual, profound, considerate men I knew. So I felt the world needed to see this.
So, Lynn, you show this in the film, that a program like this, or college education within prisons in general, has its critics. And among the questions that the critics raise, and you show them, is first of all, why do these men and women who committed violent crimes get this incredible benefit when I or my children who committed no crime do not get this benefit? Or what about the victims of these men and women? When the families of the victims see this, is that justice for them to see the benefit that these men and women are getting? What are the answers?
I think one of the things we want to do is kind of reframe the question, which is 95% of people who are incarcerated will be coming home. And as Jewel was saying, if people are in the yard basically doing nothing, they will be coming home more or less the way they went into prison, or maybe in a worse place. So education is one of the most effective and successful ways that we have to help people transform themselves and come back to society ready to be fully engaged citizens. So it's really a question of human dignity and public safety. And we really want the film to sort of help explain that.
Definitely. The Department of Justice found that every dollar invested in prison and education saves society $5 in the long term. So it's a 1 to 5 ratio there. That's the general. We believe that BPI believes that everyone or whoever wants an education should have access to education. Personally, I devoted much prayer and focus to, the act that I committed. I took accountability for it. And, I was looking for ways to engage myself constructively in order to set forth a transformation in myself. And prison wasn't providing that for me. You know, it was a struggle. I had to really search. But when BPI came on the inside of prison and provided us with these humanities, such like, you know, Walter Mosley, Friedrich Nietzsche, I was able to engage this material and see myself in this material and be able to say, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. This is who I want to be.
But while you were doing this rigorous work, was it always in the back of your mind that this could disappear tomorrow? Because you depended on the kindness of strangers and you depended on the decisions made by bureaucrats and politicians far away.
Well, that wasn't in the back of my mind. My mind was totally focused on my classes, my papers, and my professors, because that's how rigorous the work was. But, you know, Max Kenner and, you know, some of the administrators of BPI definitely explained to us, you know, the dynamics involved in funding this program, and we felt privileged to be part of it. And we tried not to get caught up in, oh, will we have this tomorrow or not? We just wanted to make the most of it.
You know, in the film, you hear a number of the incarcerated men and women who are students at BPI say that they didn't really know what they were getting into. You know, some of them were introduced to coffee after they got into it because that's the only way that they could survive this rigorous regime. But in the film, you never see anyone voluntarily leave the project. Are some of the students, is it just that we didn't see it? Do some of the students get overwhelmed and leave?
Well, I think we have an overall attrition rate of 2%, if I may. I will also say during the time that I was in the program, we hadn't had anyone who left the program. And I think it's because, not because people didn't find it difficult, but they saw that they were set up to succeed. We provided them with informal study groups. I made myself available. Many of my other friends and people on the inside made ourselves available to students to explain to them what this type of education entailed, how you would have to study to be successful. And we also had support from BPI Bard's campus itself, where students were willing to come in and tutor us on certain complex issues.
Yeah, I think one of the things that many of the students spoke about and that we were really interested to capture in the film is just the sense of community among the students and how they support each other and the kind of the culture that is around the college inside the prison and actually bleeds out into the rest of the people who are incarcerated there as well.
That's a question, because Giovanni, one of the students featured, says, you know, outside of the class, we're divided by race, by gang. Here we are not. A comedy develops, as you see in the film. Does that flow out to the general population?
Oh, most definitely. You know, people in the population come to BPI students for books, for advice on how to write letters. We take part in organizational activities, recreational activities. You know, there is a trickle effect that happens in the population because people want this type of constructive engagement with their own lives. And once there's a oasis where this can occur, people naturally gravitate towards it.
You know, Lynn, Rodney, who's a true scholar, is one of the most impressive people I've ever seen, says in the film that he is a student 24/7. Right. He is an incarcerated person 24/7, all at the same time. Right. How did you find these students juggling these two identities throughout the 4 years that you...
That's a really important theme in the film, and just in our experience of getting to know people, that it's a constant dynamic. But one of the beautiful things that came across in many different people's experiences was sort of in the classroom, there's a sense of freedom that you really are so focused on what you're studying and learning and the engagement with the faculty and your peers that you, I think, where you are kind of falls away a bit. Or even in people are in their cell talking about that it's really the focus and the sense of purpose is a way to kind of escape from where you are for a time, but then it's always there.
And Daniel Karpowitz, one of the administrators of BPI when I was part of the program, encouraged us to view ourselves as students in an institution, not prisoners in a prison. So that was a challenge that we took seriously and really worked to live with each other inside the classroom. So it was a definite process that I needed to take in order to re-enter into society me. Because overall, you don't have that chance to view yourself as nothing but a prisoner while you're in there. But viewing myself as a student made me realize I could take on some of the challenges.
But a number of the students say, and you're one of the people who say something to the effect that, you also, during your years in prison, learned different kind of lessons, negative lessons. Definitely. How to be ever vigilant, how to be violent if you have to, how to pose, give a hard pose out of necessity. How difficult was it to unlearn those lessons?
Not difficult at all, because the liberal arts, the humanities engage those same themes. So I was able to read and see how people wrote about these issues and continuously grew, particularly in German. German has this idea of enlightenment, that no one is never stuck in the idea or personality that they were born with, and we have infinite potential to grow and achieve new identities and new selves, and that was what drove me in particular.
Yeah.
So we have about a minute left, and I have to ask this, for Americans to finally understand what seems to be crystal clear, that education is the best means to rehabilitate men and women behind jails. Do they first have to understand, or they come to accept, that these men and women are human beings, are redeemable human beings with an oceanic level of potential? That's the fundamental question. That's the fundamental thing that we have to grasp.
I think we agree. Sarah and I feel really strongly that our experience is getting to know these amazing students and their families as people, like friends and families of our own. That's extraordinarily important, and that, for a lot of Americans who haven't been impacted by the criminal justice system, haven't been to prisons, don't know people who've been incarcerated, there's this othering and demonizing and labeling of people as the event or the thing that they may have done, as opposed to seeing them as fully dimensional human beings. And we hope our film will help do that. And I would love to hear what Jewel has to say about that.
I just want to say that's not just limited to prison.
Exactly.
We need to recognize the humanity in all of the people in America, regardless of your racial status, your citizenship status, or what have you, and I think we'll have a better society.
All right, well, Jewel, and thank you so much for joining us today. As I told you before we started rolling, this is one of the most powerful documentaries I've ever seen, and I really, really hope a lot of people get to see it, because it's going to change things. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.